The LA Times has a really interesting piece on how kids fare when they're raised in a secular home. Now, remember, for the longest time, we've been told that if you raise kids without religion, they're not going to be moral. This is a very pervasive idea, even in supposedly liberal areas. But here's the reality. They say, quote, for nearly 40 years, Bengston, who's a sociologist and a researcher, has overseen the longitudinal study of generations, which has become the largest study of religion and family life conducted across several generational cohorts in the United States. When Bengston noticed the growth of non-religious Americans becoming increasingly pronounced, he decided in 2013 to add secular families to his study in an attempt to understand how family life and intergenerational influences play out among the religionless. Here's what he found. High levels of family solidarity and emotional closeness between parents and non-religious youth, and strong ethical standards and moral values that have been clearly articulated as they were imparted to the next generation. Quote, many non-religious parents were more coherent and passionate about their ethical principles than some of the religious parents in our study, Bengston said. The vast majority appeared to live goal-filled lives characterized by moral direction and sense of life having a purpose. Non-religious family life is replete with its own sustaining moral values and enriching ethical precepts. Chief among those, rational problem-solving, personal autonomy, independence of thought, avoidance of corporal punishment, a spirit of questioning everything, and far above all, empathy. They continue, for secular people, morality is predicated on one simple principle, empathetic reciprocity, widely known as the Golden Rule, treating other people as you would like to be treated. It is an ancient universal ethical imperative, and it requires no supernatural beliefs. As one atheist mom who wanted to be identified only as Debbie told me, the way we teach them what is right and what is wrong is by trying to instill a sense of empathy, how other people feel. You know, just trying to give them that sense of what it's like to be on the other end of their actions. And I don't see any need for God in that. All right, let me pause here because what I want to say in response to that is, absolutely. I've said from day one, man, the reason why I believe in the Golden Rule is because it's logical, is because it's rational, because it makes sense. I mean, the idea is, if I come up to you and fucking slap you in the face and it hurts, you're gonna go, ow! Now, you didn't like that, right? So why the fuck should you impart that kind of pain on anybody? Because you know it's wrong because you felt wronged when it happened to you. So why the fuck would you do it to anybody else? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. Unless you don't give a fuck about empathy and you're a cold-hearted prick, which would make you immoral, which would make you unethical, which is what atheists and agnostics and secular people have been saying from day one. Try to view a scenario through the eyes of the other person. Once you can successfully do that, and once you understand you should treat others as you would like to be treated, well then you're golden, man. I think it was Brian Callen, who's a comedian, who said he believes it's not just that you should treat others as you would like to be treated. It's that treat everybody else as if they're literally you living a different life. You know what you like. You know what you don't like. You know that pain sucks. You know that, heartbreak sucks. You know that somebody being physically ill sucks. All these different things. Since you know that, as a matter of fact, about yourself, anybody else going through any kind of bullshit or experiencing pain or sickness, yada yada, you know when you look at that person, oh my God, I feel empathy for you because you are me. You're just me in a different body. So I don't want you to feel pain. I don't want you to feel hurt. I want to be there for you. This is the basic idea behind it, and it's true, man. It's true. Okay. Let me continue. They're not done. They say, studies have found that secular teenagers are far less likely to care what the cool kids think or express a need to fit in with them than their religious peers. When these teens mature into godless adults, they exhibit less racism than their religious counterparts, according to a 2010 Duke University study. Many psychological studies show that secular grown-ups tend to be less vengeful, less nationalistic, less militaristic, less authoritarian, and more tolerant, on average, than religious adults. Recent research also has shown that secular adults are more likely to understand and accept the science concerning global warming and to support women's equality and gay rights. One telling fact from the criminology field, atheists were almost absent from our prison population as of the late 1990s, comprising less than half of 1% of those behind bars, according to Federal Bureau of Prison Statistics. This echoes what the criminology field has documented for more than a century. The unaffiliated and the non-religious engage in far fewer crimes. Okay, now let's pause here. That's slightly misleading because the number of non-religious people, the nuns, it's about 23% in the U.S., which is a solid number, but that's just people unaffiliated with religion. When it comes to atheists, that number's more like 3 or 4%. So half of 1% being in prison, it is an underrepresentation of atheists, meaning they do commit lesser crimes, but it's not, as mind-blowing as you would think because the overwhelming majority of the American people are Christians. So by definition, of course, the overwhelming majority of people that are in jail are going to be Christians. And also there's socioeconomic issues at play here too. If you're non-religious, you're much more likely to have higher income. If you have higher income, you're less likely to commit crimes. So it is a little more complicated than that, but by and large, the point they're making is true, which is non-religious people are much less likely to commit crimes. And finally, they say, another meaningful related fact, democratic countries with the lowest levels of religious faith and participation today, such as Sweden, Denmark, Japan, Belgium, and New Zealand, have among the lowest violent crime rates in the world and enjoy remarkably high levels of societal well-being. If secular people couldn't raise well-functioning moral children, then a preponderance of them in a given society would spell societal disaster. Yet quite the opposite is the case. See, now that's the crushing fact in my opinion, because Christians like to point to, well, Stalin, non-religious, you see what he did, genocidal maniac. That's their, pet, see, atheists can be bad too. But of course, they disregard all the contrary evidence, which is that, like they just said, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, all the other places they named, they're majority secular, majority non-religious, and they basically kick the U.S.'s ass in every relevant category. Quality of life, happiness, healthcare systems, economic systems, social safety net. I mean, you name the issue and people are better off in those places. And yes, a lot of that has to do with the fact that secular people are, by and large, pretty fucking intellectual, and they tend to apply that in other areas as well. Hey, what kind of a system should we set up for healthcare? Oh, look, a single-payer system works the best. Let's do that. Yeah, that would be the problem-solving, the empiricism that goes into a secular person looking at the problem and diagnosing it. Whereas in the U.S., unfortunately, corruption plays a role and all these other things play a role, but there are some dunceheads. George W. Bush, who's in control, is like, what did Jesus think about it? Private system, capitalism? All right, man, let's do that. Even though, ironically, of course, that's not what Jesus would want, but I digress. So, you can see here, very clear, very straightforward, this idea that you're worse off if you're raised in a secular household, if you're raised in an atheistic household, flat out, factually incorrect and not true. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.